Has there ever been a more perfect blend of boomer and hipster than a millennial on YouTube with a beard telling you to read more? I'm not actually terribly interested in talking anybody into reading more books, and that would actually be super hypocritical of me since I've only read like 5 or 6 books this year, and it's October, folks. But I am, however, interested in talking to you guys a bit about why I've been really excited to read books lately and how I've been going about choosing which books to read. So if you are interested in reading some good books but just maybe need a little push or you just don't know where to start, this video is for you. I wasn't the biggest reader in high school, unless you count reading back your order at the pizza place I worked at, or reading the epic dialogue of Final Fantasy VII. And throughout my life, people would reference books to me like The Great Gatsby, or Animal Farm, Catcher in the Rye, Scarlet Letter, and I'd be like, yeah, I didn't see that movie. To be fair, I probably was assigned at least a few of these books, and I may have even done a book report or 2 on them, but I didn't read them. And this never really got any better for me as life went on. You know, people would reference authors like Hemingway, Dickens, and Fitzgerald. And I mean, I recognized those names, I knew they were authors, but I had never read anything from any of them. I don't really know how widespread this problem is, but let me put this in terms that my younger self would understand. Hey, younger me, how you doing? Sup? Listen to this. I met this guy at the coffee shop earlier. He said he's never seen The Matrix, never seen Lord of the Rings, Schindler's List. Dude's never even seen The Gangs of New York. Dude sounds lame. Or let me put it in terms that my even younger self would understand. Hey, even younger me. I met this guy the other day. He's never played Final Fantasy VII. He's never played Zelda. He's never played Portal 2, Half-Life 2, Diablo 2, Uncharted 2, Halo 2. Dude sounds like a loser. But he has played Mario 2. Dude sounds like a super loser. And eventually I realized that I sounded like a super loser when I admitted to myself that I had no reference for any of the world's greatest literary works ever created. And while I don't think that you should read books just so you don't sound lame to people that are gonna judge you because you haven't read something.
Did you read that fortune cookie? Yes. From last night? Yes. Did you read it?
Yes.
There were 2.
Yes. Did you read that thing that guy wrote in the sand on the beach?
Yeah.
Did you read the Portland Mercury?
Yeah.
Did you read the Willamette Week?
I also think it would be ignorant not to admit that maybe you're missing out on some great things if none of the greatest authors of all times are ringing any bells for you. And when I finally admitted to myself that I probably am missing out on a lot of great books and great stories that I would probably really like, that's when I started to get exciting. It's kind of like when you meet somebody that hasn't seen one of your favorite movies and you're almost jealous because they still get to watch it and experience it for the first time, whereas you've already watched it 30 times and it's not as exciting as those first times. And that's why I've been really excited to read lately, because I get to experience some of the very best books of all time for the very first time. And you can too, unless you've read all of them, which I'm pretty sure you haven't unless you're this guy. Who is this guy, you may be asking, and why am I bringing him up? That's Harold Bloom, and I'm bringing him up because, as the New York Times put it, he was America's most notorious literary critic. And like any good critic, he made a list. But this wasn't some measly top 10 list. No. He made a top 6,634 list. I didn't count, but like on Goodreads, if you look under the Western Canon book list, that's what it is, and that's the name of his. I didn't count because I don't have time for that. It's a lot of books. Just trust me, it's more than you're gonna read. Can we just say that? It's more than you're gonna read. Can we just move on? Harold Bloom was somewhat of a living legend of his time. He had a photographic memory and he was able to read a 400-page book in an hour. He could also recite all sorts of poetry and Shakespeare from the top of his head. He also had lots of opinions on which books were good and worth reading, which led him to create this massive list of Western canon. I think this is where the notorious part comes in. You see, he had a lot of opinions, and like any good critic, a lot of people didn't agree with his opinions. Most likely because their favorite book didn't make his top 10 list. But don't fret, because if your favorite book is not on this list, well, you're still allowed to read it. It doesn't really matter. Who cares? Make your own list. So Bloom's idea was that if you were going to read, it should be something that's worth your time. It should be something that is of substance. It should be something that's inspiring, transformative, something that gets you to know yourself better. And I think this is where some people disagree, because some people just like to read for fun, or they like to watch movies for fun. Not everything needs to be meaningful for them. And if that's what you believe, you're wrong. No, I'm kidding. That's totally fine. Everything doesn't need to be the most meaningful and life-changing, transformative thing in the world. I get that. One of my favorite shows is The Great British Bake Off. So, I mean, what can I say? But a part of me still really appreciates what Bloom did. And I've been using this list over the past 2 or 3 months to guide myself to find different books that I think might be worth my time. And another really exciting thing about this list is that you can find most of these books for like $2 at Goodwill. And there are so many different types of books and authors on this list. Surely you will find something that interests you. I personally started with James Joyce's The Dubliners as my first book, mainly because it is a collection of short stories. Some of the stories are just 5 pages long to 20 pages long, so I was able to finish a story in 1 to 2 sittings. That really made me feel like I was getting the ball rolling, that I was actually completing something, really quickly, which just is great when you're trying something new, to have some early success to kind of give you that momentum to try the next thing. Not to mention the stories were great too. The list is divided up in time periods, countries, and by author. And of course, you can read whatever you want. This list was just something really helpful and exciting for me to come across, so I can pick from it and I can kind of justify to myself that, this book will be worth it, will be good. It sucks watching a movie and then at the end of it you're like, wow, that movie sucked. And if you're not that into reading, it would be even worse to read like 100, 200 pages of a book to be like, wow, that was boring. Also, I can't guarantee that all these books are going to be exciting. None of them are going to be boring. They probably will to different people. That's just how life works. But all the books on this list, Howard Bloom said, were worth a second look. That's pretty high praise from somebody that has a photographic memory. So like I said in the beginning, not trying to convince anybody to read, but if you're anything like me and you're even slightly interested in seeing what the fuss is about when it comes to these old authors and books, maybe you'll take a look at this list and take a look at the used books section next time you're at a thrift store. And if not, you can always get somebody to read these books to you, which brings us to today's sponsor, Audible. What? What do you mean we don't have a sponsor? Oh yeah. Never mind.